Yo, coming to you live from World Championship in San Jose. Welcome to the Living Legends podcast.
How's it going, everyone? And welcome back to the Living Legends podcast, a weekly Flesh and Blood podcast where we talk about all aspects of the Flesh and Blood trading card game. My name is Kel, and as usual, I am joined by the boys here. Let's go with Bill first.
Hi, I'm Bill from the Spike Feeders. Also, Bill from the Living Legends podcast. We don't just look the same; we are the same. So, yeah, welcome to
What have you done with Bill? What have you done with him?
Next question. Yeah, no, but today's discussion is going to be pretty good. We have some spoilers to talk about, and then we also have sort of a larger overarching discussion planned as well, which I think everyone has experienced in one form or another.
I think so.
So
yeah,
should be a good chat.
And then, of course, we have as well. Welcome.
Absolutely, yeah. How's it going, everybody? Hope you're all doing well, wherever you might be out there, watching or listening to this. I'm having an Asahi beer, which is, so it's 9 o'clock in the UK right now. Recording a little bit behind schedule. Normally we're on Saturdays. Kel's got a vitamin water. For the audio listeners out there, he's holding up a vitamin water. But yeah, it should be a good discussion. Just to prefix it a little bit, we're going to be talking about the aforementioned Burnout that a lot of creators, including myself, done videos on recently. Because it is a thing in between sort of seasons and releases, and trying to stay relevant, and all these questions that we ask ourselves when creating videos and making content. It is a struggle sometimes. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. So yeah, we're going to get into that today, as well as some new cards as well, which have been spoiled, and a lot of speculations behind what we might see as a result of those too.
Yeah. And I think the Burnout discussion will be really interesting because there's Burnout as content creators, but there's also just Burnout as like fans of a thing or like players of a game, right? I think even folks out there listening to this might have experienced Burnout playing Flesh and Blood or any other card game for that matter.
Yeah.
And so we'll talk about it today. But before we do, I have one thing that I do want to announce. It was from the last episode. So if you listen to the last episode, you will know that we were giving away a Good Deeds promo to someone who commented something in the comments. And I have not selected the winner. The random YouTube comment picker has selected the winner. So I'm going to pull it up here.
Wheel of Mayhem.
So the winner is, we're just going to announce it right off the bat here. The winner is Ronwen Bear. RHONWENBEAR with the comment, I would make a Druid class 100%. I think a lot of people would really love a Druid class. Multi-class Wizard Illusionist because it seems like a natural fit. That makes sense. Yeah, that really makes sense. I think a lot of folks
Illusionist.
Yeah, a lot of folks were expecting Druid when we started to see some of the Tales of Aria art and some of the art related to Briar. And people were like, oh, we're going to get like a Druid or something. And it was just like, nah, it's a runeblade. And everyone's like, what?
100% Druid confirmed.
100% Druid confirmed. So, with all that said...
when there was a piece of art, wasn't there, with like an elk on it. Do you remember? Yep. What was the card? What was the card was called?
I think it's not Nature's Lore, Nature's Bounty. It might have been like a 3-cost 7 attack or something like that. It's something like that.
I think it was it wasn't Earth. Well, we're going to find out. Right, we're going to find out live. It's like a giant elk.
Yeah.
And we thought, oh yeah, this is Druid confirmed, 100% Druid confirmed, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
It was a runeblade.
While Bill looks that up, I will say, Ronwen Bear, go ahead and message Red Zone Rogue on Twitter or on, I guess Facebook would work either. So just youtube.com, or rather twitter.com/RedZoneRogue or facebook.com/RedZoneRogue. Message me your, I guess what I'll do is I will, to make sure it's 100% you, I will heart your comment and I will pin the comment on the previous video, and then just message me a screenshot of the notification that you got from me hearting it, and your address, and I'll ship you that card.
There we go.
Yeah. It is Evergreen was the card we were thinking of, by the way.
Ah, there it is. Yeah, Evergreen. That's the one.
What,
So yeah, we saw that and was like, oh, yeah, there's animals. There's got to be a druid. It's Earth. There's got to be. But no, it was just an elemental runeblade.
was I close? Was it a 3-cost 7 attack?
Yes, it's a 3-cost 7 Earth action attack, blocks for 2, and if it's played from Arsenal, it goes onto the bottom of your deck when the combat chain closes.
Cool.
It's a rare, so it also comes in yellow and blue. For less.
That's interesting because I thought it was similar to salvage shot. It had to hit, but no, this just goes straight to the bottom. That's interesting.
Yeah, it just sinks itself.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
but it's only if you play
fatigue.
only if you play from Arsenal, though, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, true.
So yeah, a little bit of give and take there. So which one would you like to talk about first, gentlemen? Would you like to talk about the Burnout or just talk about some cards? I think we can go either way. They're both going to be good discussions, and they'll both be decently. Well, depends on how much you have to say about the cards, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say, I think we can start with the spoilers first because there's a kind of a logical end to them, whereas the Burnout discussion is kind of open-ended.
Okay. Yeah. That
sounds good.
That makes sense. And one final question. We're going to answer this live. Do we want to recap the ones we've already talked about, or just the new ones?
I guess we could talk about just all of them so far, just to sort of keep it all in the same spot.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, feel free to veto me.
Yeah.
That's all good. Let's go ahead and start talking about some of the new ones, though, just to get the discussion underway.
And a quick disclaimer before we go into it. This is getting released on the 31st, I believe, which is the Wednesday. And that is actually a date where I think his name's Nathan from the Card Guys has posted on Twitter recently that they're going to be spoiling something on the 31st.
Okay.
So when this episode goes live, we obviously would have seen that one. So we're obviously not going to know what that one is today. But it's exciting times. We're getting another spoiler card on the 31st. What is going on with the spoiler schedule, first of all? It's just like leaking out all over the place. It reminds me of when they gave me the bow to spoil. They was just like, just spoil it when you want.
Yeah.
But it looks like there's certain dates for these ones, at least. Yeah.
It's pretty interesting. Yeah, I think what it looks like is they're giving specializations to folks who I don't want to put it, who are attributed
aficionados
to that, aficionados of that character to some degree. They're not all content creators because some of them are given to like players, and that's kind of a nice segue into a card called Starstruck, which is a new Bravo specialization, and it was spoiled by Cale McCreath, who is a well-known Bravo player. He's not a content creator, and so I think it's a really interesting thing that they're doing for the spoiler season, just kind of in general. And I'm really curious to see if they're all specializations, because so far they have been all specializations.
It's a funny thing as well, right? Before we go into like the cards as well, like the theme here is specializations, and if we look at the art, we've discussed the art both on videos that you've done and previous Living Legend podcast about the stained glass window art, and Bravo is not on there. Bravo's not on the art. Oldhim's on there, obviously, but Bravo's not. So it's interesting to see, like, does that set the theme and the sort of sentiment going forward that we could get specializations for maybe each hero? I don't know, but it seems like quite a lot to do.
What's really interesting about that is that if you look at the art on Starstruck, it does look like Bravo's fighting in a battle, like maybe even against the monastery. So Bravo might actually be in Solana fighting alongside all the people, like maybe in the lore, because in the lore, Lexi, Briar, Oldhim, and Yorick were going to be going to Everfest to seek help and follow these leads that Oldhim was like, "Yo, the old ones are coming back. We need to, combat this menace." And they're like, "Oh, okay, we have to go to the Everfest." And then the story just kind of stopped there. They never followed up with a story about Everfest. But we do know that Bravo was clearly there at Everfest, the star of the show after all. So maybe they recruited Bravo at Everfest and brought him to Solana. I don't know. The lore is really interesting here.
So maybe it's like the Aryan folk, as well as the Solanians, because that's pretty much it. That's the people that are in Dusk Till Dawn art, right? The Solanians and the Aryans.
Yeah.
Because Kano's not there. Nobody from Volkor's there, are they? No. And then, yeah, as you said, the art as well. If you look at the background, there's like demons in the air and stuff, and like the bloke that he's punching or the thing he's punching in the face here has got horns and stuff. So it's like quite demonic.
So
Yeah, he's also just getting hard decked in the face.
You're starstruck.
So I'm gonna try to pull this up for the viewers out there. So it might take me a second. So if one of you gentlemen would like to read Starstruck, I'll pull up the image for everyone here. And I apologize if the screen goes flashes in and out. I'm having a problem with OBS, so if our cameras go black or whatever, we'll be back. We'll be back.
Do you want me to read it out, Bill, or shall I?
Yeah, I was going to say, Az, do you want to do the honors?
Oh, okay, I'll do it then, yeah. So first of all, this is a yellow card in Bravo, which is interesting. So obviously Bravo's known for his blues. So it's a yellow, costs 7 to play, blocks for 3, and it attacks for 10. It's a Guardian action attack, majestic rarity. Bravo specialization, as we've just discussed, spoiled by Kel McCreath, who is known to be the Bravo player, and that's obviously the only hero he plays, I think. But yeah, it's got a crush effect on it, so it's nice to see that Crush is coming back. We haven't seen that since Crucible, I believe. So it's nice to see that we have got another Crush card. When this deals 4 or more damage to a hero, the only attacks they may play or activate, so that includes weapon attacks, their next turn are attacks with base power greater than the damage dealt this way. So they can't play or swing weapons based on the amount of damage they've taken from the Crush effect, which is really good because obviously it stops things like Ash Wings are weapons, aren't they? They turned into weapons, so you won't be able to swing those if you've taken 1 damage.
They're allies. Ash Wings are allies, not weapons.
Yeah, no, it would be spectral shields, though, are treated as weapons. So
Spectral shields, yeah. Okay, nice.
Interesting.
Weapons,
Interesting to note that it only activates on Crush, and Crush has to deal at least 4 damage. So this is at least 5 or more, because it's only it only counts or more. It's not like equal to or greater than kind of thing. So if it hits for 4, it gets the Crush effect. Your opponent can't play anything that costs 4 or less. They can only play 5 or greater. Or attack with things that are 5 or greater.
So it does have another effect as well, but that bit of text there is like nerfing the sort of aggro decks that like to do 3/4, 3/4, Rosetta 2, etc., aren't they? So it's like those very sort of low to the ground aggro decks that really hurts those, which is nice.
It absolutely hoses Runeblade and Ninja, and maybe Lexi too to some degree. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. And obviously we've got a keyword that appears on all of the specializations so far as well, and that's Unity. So this is sort of like encouraging blocking for effect. So this one says when this defends together with a card from hand. So I guess this is when you choose to block with this and another card in the defense phase. Is that right?
Yeah.
So you say a block with Star Truck and a block with Chokeslam, you then trigger Unity, essentially. You create a seismic surge token under any number of heroes' control. So obviously that can be used in multiplayer to give everybody a seismic surge. Not that really is going to benefit other people unless you're playing a Guardian against a Guardian.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty cool. Unity, a nice little new mechanic coming into play here.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because you can kind of pick and choose who gets it. It's not just like, everyone gets one. You can be like, you get one and I get one, and then no one else gets them.
Yeah,
I think it's really interesting. I think it's really cool for multiplayer. It's cool for any casual format where you do like a 2-headed giant kind of thing. Obviously, a lot of people think about this in terms of PvE. And I want to note right now for folks who are listening, because I still think there's a misconception, even though that I talked about this in a previous video that I did. But James White has said that we're not getting PvE this year, and I've seen a lot of people see this mechanic and they're like, oh, they're just gearing up for PvE real soon, and it's like, no, he already said that they're not doing PvE this year. So I just don't want people to be disappointed when it just doesn't happen. This year at least. But this does seem like a cool PvE mechanic, right? Buff up your allies. Seems cool.
Yeah. And again, it's like, if you're playing UPF and you're sat next to another Guardian player, you could be like, right, mate, I'm going to block here, but I'm going to give you a seismic surge so you can attack the person that I cannot attack because I'm diagonal to them. So just like these little things that create tokens or things under your opponent's control is just a nice little way to politic in those sorts of formats, which I think is quite nice, and it encourages the social aspect of the game, is like giving someone else something to do something through you, essentially. So I do like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
A lot of people are talking like about this card quite a bit because of the unity effect. Just being able to block with 2 cards, which you're normally going to be blocking for like 6, which is pretty good. And then that allows you to, what is it? I think debilitate is one that costs 4. If you have debilitate plus blue card in your hand, getting the seismic surge just allows you to crack in with this debilitate. So it allows you to remain, like, it allows you to take some tempo back if you really need it, for very little investment, because you just get the surge for blocking anyway. It also works really well just by getting a surge with tectonic plating and then getting the unity surge from this, because then that lets you use a single blue to attack in with like a spinal crush. So both just like just really good options for keeping tempo in your favor, even if you're kind of on the back foot and needing to block. The unity effect in this case is actually like quite strong.
I swear there's like a couple of, well, the one that's coming to mind is Righteous Cleansing, which is a 7 cost as well, right? So if you've got a Righteous Cleansing in your arsenal, for instance, and you block with 2 cards, one being the 3-block Unity card and another one being a 3-block Thing card, you can then attack with the Righteous Cleansing, pitching the other 2 blues that you've got on your hand, because you've created that seismic surge. So you could actually attack back with another 10 attack by going off of 2 blues because you've reduced it from the Unity, which is quite nice. I think there might be other 7 cost attacks, but I think that's the only one that comes to mind. There might be another one, but and that's a yellow as well. Righteous Cleansing is also a yellow, so that's interesting. But that's cool.
One thing I'd like to note about this, while we're still at Starstruck, before we start talking about some of the other specializations, is that they, so far, I mean, like, we've only seen 3, but so far they all kind of also feel like sideboard tech. Like, they feel very targeted against specific things, which I don't know if that's going to set, like, a precedent for Dusk Till Dawn as a set, but I think it's just, I don't know, just something worthy to note, because this definitely feels like a card that you're not going to put in against all matchups if you're playing CC, right? Like, you're not going to put this in against like another Guardian, unless you really, really care about the Seismic Surge block. Because like the effect is like not going to do much against them, or like against a wizard, for example, probably not going to do much against them either.
Well, it still attacks for 10 damage, but still, it's not going to, the effect is not going to really matter, is it? And what was I going to say? I was going to say something else. Yeah, when you said about sideboard stuff, right?
Yeah.
With regards to the future of this game, like each hero having multiple options and archetypes. I actually did a video on this, like exploring the idea of this. But as the game gets like older, like years ahead now, is Bravo going to have like 3 ways you can take him with regards to how he plays? You can play Shield Bravo, you can play the normal standard Bravo, you can play defensive Bravo, and then when you sit across the table from a Bravo player, you're like, what version is he going to be playing?
You just play.
Do you think?
I was gonna say you could just play versions of Bravo where his fist is glowing in all of the art.
You could exactly,
just punch tribal.
Yeah.
It's like those old MTG commander decks where you just make a commander deck out of all the characters that are wearing hats.
Yeah,
you
Chair.
You get to that stage.
Chair
Shout
Tribal
out
is really
Ladies
good too.
Left.
Ladies Looking Left is good. Chair Tribal, there's some good stuff out there.
Oh, Ladies Looking Left is so OP. Anyway,
it's my kind of deck.
It really is.
So interesting. It's interesting. Also, I'd like to note that this is Bravo's 3rd specialization. Brian Gottlieb, please give me another Arachne specialization. Like, come on, man. Come on.
That's a good point actually. So specializations per hero, right? What does that look like? Bravo's on 3.
Oh, okay. Well,
Who?
this is a good segue because the next one we can
Hmm.
talk about is Chorus of Iron Song, which is a Dorinthea specialization, which is her
Mm-hmm.
3rd or 4th specialization, right? Because didn't she get a new
Mhm.
specialization in the what do you call it?
The
Classic battles.
Old X
the
classic battles, yeah.
classic battles, or was that like just one that everyone can use? I don't remember off the top of my head.
No,
but
I'm pretty sure that's a Dorinthea specialization. Glistening steel blade, I think.
yeah,
That's right. Yeah.
and so now she has 4, and some heroes have like 1. Some heroes don't have any at all. I mean, like merchants don't have anything, but
No.
like some CC heroes have 1, like Arachne. Um, so you
So
know,
does that? So that obviously we know surgical extractions being printed in this set as well. So
Yes.
so it's just like what are we going to see? I know we're seeing it trickle through, and we're probably going to see something else. Spoiled. When you're listening to this today, there's going to be something else spoiled by the card guys, which could throw all this speculation out the window. But who cares? Yeah, are we going to get more? Are we going to get more specializations for people? Like obviously Azalea, for instance, has got not Death Whistle, Red in the Ledger, plus the Crow's Nest, which is 3
Yep,
specializations. Arachne's got what, 1? Missouri's
Arachne
got
has
1.
Riptide has 4 because he has
Riptide has 4.
the
Yeah,
3 traps in the thing. Um,
there's no pattern, is there? Really, it's just all over the place. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, like they had a pattern for the first couple sets because the first 2 sets they printed like a majestic specialization and a super rare for each hero. So all of those
Yeah.
heroes each have 2 plus whatever else they have since then. And
Yeah.
then some heroes have gotten a little more than others, like Dorinthea here, which we can talk about.
Hmm.
And some heroes have regicide. I'll stop talking about it, but I mean, it'd be cool if we actually got a good specialization.
Yeah.
I would also like another specialization for Uzuri, but at least hers is like really good, whereas Arachne's is like it's fine, but it's also like a one of because you can't have 2 of them in your deck anyway. It's just like, come
Yeah.
on, it would be cool to have. It would be cool.
That's another thing as well. Like before we read out this card, I know we just go on absolute wild tangents, and that's all part of the podcast, really. But I think the specializations are what really can draw you into a certain hero because nobody else has it. It's only that named character that has it, and that's a unique way to expand heroes' card pools without giving that stuff to everybody else. Like Lexi can't have Red in the Ledger. Lexi can't have Not the Death Whistle. Kasai or Bolton can't have the Chorus of Iron Song because it's Dorinthea only.
That's a good point. All of the Tales of Aria heroes actually also only have 1 specialization. So Lexi, Briar, and Oldham all have 1. And those ones I think are actually kind of a shoe-in for this set because those are some heroes that, once again, we talked about in a previous episode that we see Oldham and Lexi in the key art, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's a slam dunk for an Oldham and a Lexi specialization at the very least. Probably also Briar as well. So, I mean, if Bravo's here, like Lexi and Oldham and Briar's got to be here too.
Got to be, right? Yeah.
We should probably talk about this card, by the way.
This card. Yeah, you should give it a read.
Yeah, I mean. So this is Chorus of Iron Song. This one was spoiled by Flukenbox. Also, he did a little short interview with Brian Gottlieb as well. So if you'd like to go check that out, it's over on his channel. This is a warrior attack reaction. It is a 3-block, costs 1 to play, and has yellow pitch. It is a Dorinthea specialization, like we've talked about. It says, until end of turn, target Dawnblade gets +1 attack, and damage this would deal can't be prevented. And then it has the Unity mechanic, but this time it makes a Courage token instead of the Seismic Surge. So when this defends together with another card from hand, create a Courage token under any number of heroes' control. We don't know what a Courage token is currently. So we have no idea.
It's gotta be weapon attack reduction, surely. Gotta be.
I think the popular theory currently is that it's either like your next weapon attack costs 1 less, sort of like a Courage of Bladehold effect, but just a single one, or a Quicken, but only for weapons. Which
all right, yeah.
I didn't think that was as interesting initially, but it would work really well with Dorinthea Quicksilver Prodigy. Being able to block with 2 cards and then use a single yellow to attack twice with your Dawnblade is like
Oh, yeah.
actually not horrendous and feels like maybe a design space that they'd want to go into. But yeah, so those are the two. I think the costs one less one is maybe more likely, but I like both of them as options.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this card, like Starstruck, I think really feels like a sideboard card, right? Because it's just a +1 for 1 resource, which is a really bad rate, but it also has this attack's damage can't be prevented, right? Which once again feels like a very, very sideboard case scenario. You're not going to want to put this in against every deck, unless, of course, once again, that the token is worth it. Because generally speaking, 1 for 1, like 1 for a +1 is like not good at all. So like this is ironically quite good against the Angels because it laughs in the face of their ward, because ward is a damage prevention effect. So this means that ward can't do anything against them, or rather, this just plows through ward. And also is good against like Oasis Respite and that kind of stuff. But I don't know. This one's an interesting one. What do you guys think about this one, just in general?
Yeah, it's interesting what you said about the ward. So if you attacked the Prism and she had Bologna out, the ward would not trigger because this damage cannot be prevented. So you just go straight to the face, no matter how many Angels or ward they had out. Is that correct?
So yes, I don't know if the Angel would still get popped. I'm unsure of that.
I think it would be because we're just wondering about ward, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because like the wording on it, how I can pull it up. So here's Bologna. It says if your hero okay, maybe not. It says if your hero would be dealt damage, destroy this to prevent 4 of that damage. Oh, you know what? I actually think it would, because your hero is still going to be taking damage, and so then Bologna gets destroyed to prevent the damage, but then the damage can't be prevented. So it just pops and then doesn't do anything.
So you literally you smack Prism in the face and Bologna dies regardless, or the whatever ward trigger you choose dies but doesn't prevent the damage, essentially.
I think so. That's how I read it.
Can't be prevented eats through all prevention effects. Like even if you deal 1 damage that can't be prevented to a Prism that has 20 spectral shields, every single spectral shield dies. Because it's trying to prevent that damage. Yeah.
Ouch. That's rough. That's real rough.
It's very rough.
So like
also,
I said,
Chorus of Ironsong just literally yeets every single ward then.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Yep.
So
holy moly.
So
is, I forget what it was. Somebody was saying that
it's like a Wrath of God effect.
Yeah. Kind of, yeah.
Somebody was saying potentially a really interesting ability for the new Prism to have would be ward abilities of permanents you control are optional. Because then it would, I mean, I don't think it would prevent spectral shields because they technically do like ward 1, but I don't think it's actually keyworded to be ward 1 unless they change that. But it would be an interesting way to kind of play around that sort of effect. Instead of having every single ward permanent you have blow up just because your opponent is playing this Chorus of Ironsong.
That's funny.
Interesting. And then also Celestial Kimono becomes a little bit better. You can choose to not blow itself up.
On the first thing, on the like a Kadachi or something. Yeah.
That's pretty cool though. I wonder if Fluke and Box was given a courage token alongside this, just so he's got the insider information.
I don't think so. Here's an interesting thing here. I don't think any of the people were given physical cards for this one either.
No, probably not actually. Yeah.
Yeah, because the next one we're going to talk about here is a Shiana specialization, which I'm actually pretty excited for. This is a really cool card. This is the Alluring Inducement, or I keep wanting to say inducement, enduring inducement, but This is a cool card. It's really interesting. This is also somewhat feels like a sideboard card, but we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. So this is a 2 cost, 2 attack, 2 block. Love the symmetry. Shiana specialization. It is a shapeshifter action attack, and it says it's yellow pitch, and it says when this attacks, the defending hero reveals their hand. You may choose an attack action card revealed this way. If you do, this becomes the chosen card, which seems insane. And also it says Unity. When this defends together with a card from hand, create an Eloquence token under any number of heroes' control. And we know what an Eloquence token is. An Eloquence token is a token that says when you play a non-attack action card, destroy this and that card gets go again. So that's pretty cool for wizards and people who run Toma or like Toma Fiendel and that kind of stuff. But yeah, the Shiana specialization is super interesting. Also, at this point, I'd also like to note that all of the specializations so far have yellow pitch, which is sus. It's interesting. It feels like a cycle, like intentionally, like they're all yellow, and I can't help but wonder if we're gonna get a demonastery cycle, or like a bad guys cycle of specializations, and maybe they're all gonna be
The demonastery aren't the bad guys; they're the good guys.
Well, it might be a situation where they're all kind of bad, but
they're all bad. Yeah.
Well,
yeah, that could be interesting.
The heroes, like, I don't think Bravo is bad or anything, but fighting for a misguided cause, perhaps.
Misguided, yeah. It's like the conversation we had about the Civil War situation. Like, everyone's got different ideals and fighting over each other, and then suddenly they need to all sort of put aside those differences and fight the bigger thing later on, perhaps.
And then Bravo finds that Oldham killed Bravo's parents before he got like time frozen, and then they start fighting.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
That'll be a sick battle, though.
Spoilers for Civil War.
Yeah.
So yeah. So this the Alluring Inducements is a really interesting card. Obviously, it's super good against some classes. Like, it's super good against any big numbers or fancy. So it's actually quite good against like Uzuri, who has like these really nasty attacks with on-hit effects. Like Surgical Extraction or whatever. It's really good against Bravo and Oldham. These big 14 attack cards. Like, this can become a 2-cost Pulverize. But it's like worthless against Kano. And it also might be equally bad against any Cheerios deck, right? That has a bunch of attacks that normally cost 0. Now you have a 2-cost card that would normally cost 0. So that's what I meant by it felt like another sideboard card, right? Like, it doesn't feel like this is great in every matchup. It feels like this is good in specific matchups, and in other matchups it might be like not great at all.
Or in obviously Ultimate Pit Fight, where you can choose between your left and your right as to what hero you're attacking. You might have more options there. But it's fantastic. Yeah, I absolutely love it. And the art is obviously is a pretty hot diggity dog as well, which is nice. I
made this observation in the video that I put out today talking about a lot of these new cards. But all these cards with Unity as a mechanic also have some semblance of Unity in the art, and I don't know, it's got to be like by design, but I also find it's very interesting. So this one has a more direct Unity, right? They're like coming together to unify, but also for like Starstruck, we have Bravo fighting alongside a bunch of people, in Unity in battle, and same with the Dorinthea specialization, the Chorus of Ironsong. She is fighting with a bunch of soldiers in battle. So another thing that's just like really interesting about these specialization cards, they have like this theme, which is I don't know, it's really interesting. I haven't seen anything like this in Flesh and Blood before.
Coming together through the common language of making great art.
In the common language of killing the monastery demons.
Killing, yes. Absolute demons.
Speaking of great art, hold on, let me pull up the Eloquence token. I love the art on this like so much. I would literally buy a print of it right now if I think it's Othan. Nicolatus. I'm really bad
That's
with
right.
the pronunciations, but I would literally buy a print of that like right now if he had it available. The art is like so good.
It's
Um,
nice.
It looks like it could be like the cover art for like I don't know, like a prog rock band or something. I don't know. I just really like it.
Yeah, definitely. It's got
Uh,
those hues, hasn't it? And those obviously those like the circles and the grams and stuff. Yeah,
it
definitely. I know what you mean.
it has like this distinct. I think Othan has this art style just in general of it being like very gritty and dark, sort of. Like all of his art has like this feel to it. Like it's hard to describe. It feels like anyone who's like it's gonna get real nerdy, but anyone who's like on this podcast about card games, um, Planescape. Anyone who's delved into like old Planescape D&D world type stuff.
Oh yeah,
It's like this kind of vibe. It's like kind of like
yeah.
dark and gritty, but also at the same time like fantastical. I don't know. It's just this. It's interesting.
I haven't played that. I've heard a lot about the Planescape Torment,
Mm.
like isometric D&D game. I still haven't played it, but I've heard a lot about it. Absolute classic, apparently, that RPG. But
It's very good. It's very, very story heavy. Um,
mm.
it's old though, so I mean, a lot of people coming into it these days might be put off
Mm.
by like the graphics and the general like old clunky UI kind
Old
of
feel,
stuff.
yeah.
But it's it's a classic for a reason. It's got a great story.
I love that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then we also have another card that Bill may or may not be excited about. We have a new Luminaris. This is Luminaris Celestial Fury. And this one is a two-handed scepter, light illusionist weapon. Once per turn instant for 2 resources. Target angel attack or attack action card with Herald in its name gets go again. Bill, what do you think?
It is pretty obvious that I think LSS is trying to atone for the sins of the original Luminaris.
Okay.
With that being said, I don't think this card is necessarily bad. In terms of needing resources in order to do this, that does make it a little bit awkward because currently all of our heralds that we currently have and all of the angel attacks that we have are pretty expensive.
A lot of them attack for 2.
A lot of them attack for 2. And yeah, there's one so far that attacks for 1, which is kind of the best one, which is Wartune Herald. But something that we do all know because of the experience with Luminaris, those don't have go again inherently for a very good reason. Giving a lot of these attacks go again is pretty rough, especially something like Herald of Erudition. Being able to immediately follow up with some of the cards that you're able to draw is pretty gross. So I think this is much, much less powerful than the original Luminaris, but I think that is also by design. Yeah, I don't hate it. I feel like Luminaris or decks that care about this, like specifically this new Prism, will likely be sort of tending towards playing more resources, playing obviously a bunch of yellows and probably a bunch of blues as well. The 0 cost auras from Everfest are all blooms, for example. So it could be interesting. I don't know exactly how it's going to play out because, as I've said right now, we don't have very many great options to give go again with other than like our cheap Herald and the draw Herald. So obviously there will be more Heralds in the future, specifically in this set. So we'll have to kind of see what those are before we can fully fully make a really reasoned vamping, try to figure out what word I'm looking for. Evaluation of this card.
Yeah, for sure.
It's definitely interesting. It implies that we're going to be seeing a lot more heralds and angel attacks, I assume. So,
oh yeah,
not for those.
I think Bologna herself really implies that we're going to see a lot of angels, just because she has the text that she like puts a +1 counter on all of the angels in play. I like the flavor of Luminaris costing 2 because the previous Luminaris gave you go again on if you have a yellow card in your pitch zone, and so this card effectively costs a yellow card to activate, which I think is like, on point in terms of flavor.
Yeah.
And yeah, I agree with what you said. We haven't seen the full set, and at the end of the day, if you want to play New Prism, this is a card that you might just have to play from a lack of option, right? It's either this or like the Iris. So maybe you're doing some weird Iris of Reality stuff, but if you're not, then you might just be doing this.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and
I remember tweeting out the new Luminaris is rubbish. I remember tweeting this out like as a response to everybody that was like, this is just not the same. It's just like, yeah, you have to play fair now, mate.
Yeah.
You have to actually use a fair weapon now. Yeah.
It's like whenever Briar hits Living Legend and Rosetta Thorn gets, weeded out. They print another one and it's like significantly worse, and everyone's gonna be like, "Oh, this is trash," and it's like, yeah, that's because Rosetta Thorn was busted as hell, like, and Luminaris is busted as hell. I think Luminaris might be the most powerful weapon in the game, like ever printed. I think it actually might be. I don't know if this is a spicy take. It might be close to the power level of Duskblade, which got pre-banned.
Ooh, yeah.
I think it's just that good. It just gives everyone's like Voltaire is too strong, and we need to ban Voltaire because from Lexi because it gives a go again twice, and like Luminaris just gives everything go again for no resource, just everything, just gets it. Like, I know no one wanted a Luminaris ban. I think people just hate Rangers, by the way.
They do, yeah. There's some serious issues there, isn't there?
They just don't want Rangers to be
PTSD.
good. Illusionist can be good. Runeblade can be good. Guardian can be good. Rangers? No.
No, never.
You can't have good cards. Only we get good cards. Your cards have to suck, and you also have to pay resources for them too. Anyway.
Yeah.
Speaking of not paying resources, we'll just quickly cover some of the other cards we've talked about before. So here is a Flail of Agony, which is a Vinset specialization. It notably is a one-handed Shadow Runeblade weapon flail. Once per turn action for a life to attack, which is the first time we've seen this on a card, or at least on a weapon. And when it hits, you create a Runechant token. Notably, this itself does not have Go Again. And so this basically tells me that Vinset's got to have some way to get Go Again. Because if this on base level is not good. Like, unless you have other Go Again things. And the other card that we have seen, the Phantom Banshee, also does not have Go Again. So it tells me that Vinset probably has some way to get Go Again, kind of like Chain did. And the Phantom Banshee has this interesting cost reduction mechanic, which is similar to the cost reduction mechanic in Arcane Rising, but it's actually it's different in ways that are interesting and not strictly worse. So Phantom Banshee is a 3-cost 7 attack Shadow Runeblade attack action, blocks for 3, and it has the Rune Gate mechanic, which is this has Rune Gate 3. So you need to have, if you have 3 Runechants, and this card costs 0 to play from your Banish Zone. Does not reduce the cost from hand, only from Banish Zone. So if you're going to play this from hand, it's going to cost 3. Also, this has Blood Debt, and like I said, attacks for 7. And I think a good parallel with this card is that, I keep forgetting what it's called, but it's that Arknight card from Arcane Rising that attacks for 6. The red one attacks for 6, costs 3, and then it has the cost reduction mechanic, right? Costs 1 less to play.
Amplify the Arknight.
That one, yep. Costs 1 less to play. And so, like, this is pretty close to Amplify the Arknight, right? Because Amplify the Arknight has the cost reduction mechanic, attacks for 6. This also has a cost reduction mechanic, attacks for 7. But the cost reduction is only from banishment, and it is a zero-sum game. It's all or nothing. You either get it for free, or you have to pay. Well, rather, you can't play it at all from banishment. So, yeah, it's an interesting card, and I don't know. I don't know how to evaluate it, to be honest. The fact that you play from banishment is cool. It's kind of like a second hand. The fact that it attacks for 7 is also kind of cool. But from hand, it's just going to be like a Wounded Bull or something, which is not bad.
Yeah, it's nice that it has two applications as well. You can obviously play it you can either block with it, and then maybe there's like a sort of Leviar-esque mechanic where you can move things from your graveyard to your banished zone, which you can then play later after you've accumulated rune chants. You can play it from your hand or play it from the banished zone. Yeah, so it's like loads of different applications. You can either play it from hand, or you can use it for its reduced cost if you've then done the rune gate thing and somehow moved it into the banished zone. Because you have to move this into the banished zone in order to get the rune gate effect. So how do you do that with Vinset? Because obviously Chain moved things into his banished zone via the Soul Shackles, so maybe there's something similar that does something like that, but just not as OP. But I don't know how. I don't know.
Something that I'm thinking about is this is pretty good with Art of War.
Oh yeah. Well.
Oh yeah.
Like Art of War needed to be better.
Oh god, yeah.
We finally did it.
It's there. You banish it and it's there. You draw two, and then suddenly it's there to play through the rune gate.
You can play it potentially for free. You can choose Go again on Art of War.
Oh,
yeah.
Here we go.
What this tells me though is that Vinset, at least herself or her kit, has ways to do banishment, and also has ways probably to do Go again. And then obviously also cares about rune chants. So you kind of have like this 3-pronged attack kind of thing, which feels like more hoops, and I think that is good because Chain needed more hoops. Chain was just like, I just do it. He's just like, yeah, whatever, I just do it. Go attack you. You know. So interesting. I'm very interested to see. My guess is that this is also going to be, using educated guess. Using the Flail of Agony as an example here, I think Vinset is going to leverage her life instead of cards from the top of the deck, like Chain did. I think she's going to leverage her life to do these things, which is why she also has 20 health instead of like a lower life total. I think like the art, she's got like these things like sticking in her, and like it looks like she's in an Iron Maiden on her adult art. So, yep, I think she's gonna. That's my guess. She's gonna pay life to do things.
Seems to be the Shadow Runeblade way, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Or Shadow in general, just blood debt and all this sort of dealing damage to yourself for higher value stuff, I guess.
Yeah.
So
I'm excited for RuneGate. I'm excited for what it represents. Because it's like Kel was kind of saying. We don't know how Vinset is going to be playing things from the Banished Zone, how they're going to be put there in the first place. But yeah, we'll just have to see.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And with that, almost an hour in, we can start talking about the topic. We can start talking about the topic of burnout in card games and also content creation. Like as said, this is a topic that has been kind of going around the last couple weeks in the Flesh and Blood space. And I think for me personally, it's one that comes up back when I worked, my old 9-to-5 job. It would happen to me at the end of the year, and that's just because the end of the year just can be really exhausting for many, many reasons. And I would always take a vacation like in January because I was so burned out. I was like useless in January. So I'd always like take a vacation in January. Then in the job that I worked, I didn't really have the opportunity to take the vacation during, the holidays because you just had to work the holidays. So they took it right after it. So it's something that I'm very familiar with in my previous job, and you know what, this one as well, which is a little, it's different. It's quite a bit different. So how do you guys feel just in general about the topic? Do you guys get burnt out on, let's talk about content creation first, and then we'll talk about generally with like card games, I guess. So yeah, what do you feel about that?
Who wants to go first?
I mean, I feel like I definitely go through waves of being burnt out, just like in general. And it can be pretty rough because one of the things that I want to do a lot is, show up to local events and make sure that new players, if they decide to show up, are being welcomed satisfactorily. I mean, it's not like my local player base is like overtly hostile to people, but it's just something that I take a lot of personal pride in, or at least I was for a long time, as our scene was, a little bit smaller in general. Um, like after games, if somebody came with a new deck, like a precon or whatever, and I played against them, and however the game ended up going, I would normally give them just a card from my traders to be like, yeah, this is a card that's relevant for your deck, and I think it might help.
Yeah.
Just here you go. And it was just those kind of things that I really enjoy doing. But when I'm burnt out, it's tough to want to go to events, to play games, to interact with the community. So it has a farther reaching effect than just feeling like you don't want to, oh, I don't feel like I want to play Flesh and Blood. It's also, I don't feel like interacting with the community, which just kind of feels bad. And there are times where I've done this with Magic as well multiple times. Right now I'm in kind of a non-burned out state because I recently put together just a mono black commander deck because of a card that I pulled when I was in Minneapolis. And another one is I wasn't really burnt out per se, but I recently got back into Yu-Gi-Oh! And by recently, I mean like 3 days ago.
Whoa.
Because there's a format specifically called Edison that is like basically the format that was played during the 2010s, or specifically 2010, which has a lot of stake in my soul as what I played when I was in high school. And
Nostalgia, yeah.
yeah, it's super nostalgic for me, and it's really really fun. But yeah, it's having that, having the amount of sort of fun and whimsy that I have currently for this new Yu-Gi-Oh format that I'm going to be playing, is something that doesn't last. Like for me specifically, and I've felt it about Flesh and Blood. I felt it about Magic. I'm feeling it now about Yu-Gi-Oh. And I know that I just have to enjoy it while it lasts, and once it fades, try to find a way to either trick myself into liking it again, or just finding a new way to interact with it, to make it feel fresh, make it feel exciting.
Yeah.
So
Well,
yeah,
that's all part of the waves thing, isn't it? It's just like, I feel like if you are all in on just one game and one game only, what are you going to do when that game pisses you off? Or if you just keep losing, if you're just not getting the experience that you want out of that game. That's why I think having a lot of strings to your bow and, playing and sort of exploring and being open-minded to multiple games is a great way to combat burnout, because you're just like, my bloody Azalea deck just not winning at all. What else can I do? I just don't like it anymore. I just don't want to play this game anymore. What can I do? I'll just play Yu-Gi-Oh, or play Commander with my friends. I'll just get over it. And then what you can then do is, a lot of these card games and skills and that is transferable. Maybe you play another game and you'll think, right, okay, maybe I can apply this sort of thing in the other game, and gets your mind going again. And you have to ride the wave, and just, I think having more games to play is also another thing. And I think Kel can attest to that as well. Just having more games and playing and being more open-minded is a nice strategy, I think, to combat it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
For me, it's like it's a pretty layered thing. Like, I'm not a casual person, so when I get into something, like, I really get into it.
Yeah.
I'm not just like, oh, cool, I have a little bit. It's like I go all in, especially if it's something that I really really like. So like for Flesh and Blood, for example, I'm like all in on Flesh and Blood, obviously. But for other things too, I like to temper my spending habits. A lot of this comes down to price, to be honest, for me at least. But I like to have at least one other card game that I can devote a lot of time and attention to, and also money to, because that's how card games work. And whether fortunately or unfortunately, And so like for me personally, like right now, obviously I love Flesh and Blood. It's my main game. But I also really, really like Grand Archive, and it's giving me the same feelings that I got when I first started playing Flesh and Blood. It's like this really fresh new experience. The community is fantastic. There's a lot of just great energy, goodwill. The game's really fun. There's a lot of different archetypes. And I hosted a Grand Archive tournament over on my Discord last weekend, and it sold out. And I would have sold a lot more if I had the cap more than 40. It was a 40-person tournament. And like if I get bummed out, or not necessarily bummed out, but if I get like burned out on Flesh and Blood, either just, maybe I don't care about the meta, maybe like, right now it's Road to National season. So if you're watching this in the future, it's currently RTN season, and like I'm not participating in it, even though, I do have a deck that I have my Uzuri deck. In fact, knowing me, I have literally a playset of every card in the game, so I can build whatever I want. But I just kind of like personally don't care all that much about Road to National season. I'm just like, I don't know. I'm not excited about it. I haven't done like coverage or anything for Flesh and Blood since Pro Tour last year, and I was like, since then I don't really have a reason to get into it other than like if I wanted to stay competitive with it, and I just kind of don't care all that much about like whatever the competitive meta is right now. And so like,
and that's another thing as well. Like, because Flesh and Blood is literally so competitive, for people that are just enjoying the game, it's hard to really sort of keep up with the whole competitive side of it and stay relevant if you're speaking about content creation, is stay relevant in this. It's just like, why would I want to make an Azalea cult video when it's just appreciation for the hero, when there's 40 other channels that are just doing, the top 8 Azalea deck that did this, or the top 8 that did this, or, the top winning meta deck that you should run these 5 cards because they're great with a massive oversaturated thumbnail. It's just one of those things. It's just like, I can't keep up with this because my appreciation of this particular topic is more on a casual level. And then that grinds on you because you're thinking, what's the point in me doing a video when there's other videos that are just better at explaining the overall value per card or whatever. So relevance is also another thing as well. It's like, if you're not really into all of the hyper competitive side of it, it's hard to make content when that's pretty much where mainly a lot of the views come from, is the people that want to know that sort of thing. And it is going to evolve. Obviously, we are going to get casual stuff and support, and we are already starting to see that. But at the moment, it's just like, it is a bit demoralising sometimes when that's kind of what a lot of people want to view. But that's just me speaking from where my frustration was. Kind of got over it now, but yeah, it's obviously, it comes in waves. But I'm sure that's affected a lot of us, that are listening to this now in the future.
Yeah, like. I want to be clear too. I'm not saying that I will never be interested in the competitive meta of Flesh and Blood. It's just like, we're talking about Burnout, and currently I'm just kind of like burned out on it, right? After being like so into it, I don't really make a lot of competitive content, but like I literally would be super into analyzing the stuff when I did coverage, right? I wanted to make sure I knew what I was talking about, and so I would pay attention to all of it and make sure I knew what knew what I was talking about in regards to matchups, regards to what people were playing in decks, memorizing what the cards were just by like a flash of the art, like a lot of that kind of stuff. And now, like, that I haven't done coverage in a year-ish or so, that like looking back into it, I'm just like, it just looks so exhausting. It just looks so exhausting, and I'm just like, having fun just playing my deck, and my Uzuri deck I think is quite good, and I'm still gonna plan on doing like a deck tech on it eventually. But like, it is a competitive deck, but I just don't have the bandwidth currently to like get into the competitive space to a degree that I would feel comfortable with, which would be a lot. Because like I said, I'm not a casual person. And I mean, some of the stuff, as said, is I can speak to that a little bit, but it's a little different for me. So it's like, for me, like, I know, and this is like a conscious choice, right? Like, I know I could make meta analysis videos, tier lists, all the stuff that
You
gets.
could, yeah.
I could do that quite easily, right? Like I could do that. I know it would get views, but I personally, it's not something that I'm like interested in right now. And so like I'm not going to make a video on something that I'm just like on, right? I want to make a video about something that I'm passionate about and that I actually want to talk about, which is why I don't make stuff like that. Which is why you've seen, which is why I make a Grand Archive video a week now, because I really want to talk about it, because I'm really enjoying it. And that's how I've managed to retain some semblance of sanity, putting out like 3 to 5 videos a week. Whereas I like really want to focus on things that I'm enjoying, or that I just want to talk about. Not necessarily always enjoying, but most of the time I'm enjoying. And
that's right. That's one of the main things as well, is you have to enjoy what you're doing. So if you're not enjoying making a video, then that's not where you want to be, essentially. That's definitely a massive part of it, is just speaking about what's passionate to you. If you're forcing out a video, people will know that it's being forced out, so
yeah. And
Definitely.
like you can, if you look at my current content for Flesh and Blood, you can kind of see what I've been like enjoying more. So I've made video about lore, right? We had the whole thing here, the whole saga here of like talking about the putting a lore tab, and then they put the lore tab, and then they put the stories on there, and then I made a video about it because I love the lore and I want to talk about the lore, and I think it's like super underrated. Like when they're showing new cards, it's always really exciting to talk about the new cards, but I also like to like talk about like the story significance of like Bravo fighting in the battle or whatever. And also I'd like to note that the Bravo is also wearing his Starvo armor, so I wonder if that's just kind of like the new look for Bravo. Like maybe that's just how Bravo looks now, like that kind of stuff. I find that really interesting, and I get into it. But like whatever like Oldham list won like last weekend, like I don't care. I just don't care right now. I don't care what Oldham won or whatever. I'm actually pretty glad that Oldham hit Living Legend though. Get out of here.
we Oldham. Yeah.
It sucks for the people who really like Oldham, but you'll probably get a new Oldham soon. And you can play him in Living Legend format, and then get crushed by Chain and Bravo, or in Starvo.
It's a very deep. It's a very deep topic. It can go on for God knows how long. Burnout.
I think for card game players in general, I personally I want to get on the I want to talk about one specific thing too, and that is that trading card games are a luxury hobby and they are not cheap. No matter what card game you play, it is not cheap. Even I think Pokemon is like the cheapest, more or less, like competitive game to play, and you're still paying like $70 for a competitive deck. That's the price of a video game, right? But for the most part, like TCGs are not cheap at all, and to have 2 that you play it can be a big ask for folks. So I know it can be like pretty tricky if you only play 1 game, and then you get like burnt out of that game. I've seen it. I've been playing card games since 1994. Started with 1995. Started with 4th edition Magic, and I've seen many people get burnt out, sell their collection, and then regret it. And almost every single person that I've met, barring current events, right? A lot of people have dumped Magic recently for pretty viable reasons, but in the past, let's say 5 years ago plus, when people would quit a game like Magic because they previously really enjoyed it, got burnt out, sold their collection, everyone that I've known in that situation has regretted it. So like, if you're in a situation where you love Flesh and Blood but you're just kind of not into it right now, and you're like, oh, maybe I want to sell my collection or whatever, if you don't need the money right now, you probably, I don't know if I would recommend selling now, man. Like, everyone that I know always is like, I wish I didn't sell my Tunic. I wish I didn't sell my Underground Sea. Like that, I personally have never sold out, even if I get burnt out. And partially that's because of laziness, and I just don't want to find a seller for some of the stuff. And then partially it's because it's sentimental to me. Like I really love card games, and I love the experiences and everything surrounding them. And like, I don't know.
Yeah, and that's another thing as well. It's like finding, or we spoke about it earlier, about finding what makes you happy about the thing that you're doing, and then trying to pursue that instead. A lot of like new videos that I'm doing now is like more like what ifs, thought provoking things, not necessarily part of, not part of the game, not part of the mechanics, just like what if this could be what happens, or just speculating about the thing that we like, not having to be meta, not having to be relevant. It's just like what if this could happen in metrics or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's about finding that thing that you love about it and letting that sort of drive your content and stuff as well. And like doing the Azalea ringer thing every week with with Bill, that's a great thing I look forward to. Living Legends podcast with you two, it's one thing I look forward to every week. So again, it's just finding what you love and just putting that out instead, really. So.
Yeah. And at the end of the day too, it's like it's okay to take a break, right? If you're feeling really burnt out.
Oh yeah.
And like I mentioned, I used to always take a vacation in January because I felt so burnt out at work, and it would be like I would save up all my time and I would take like a couple weeks because I just needed to get away, right? And even I can understand that happening with like hobbies too, especially if you're the kind of person who's like really entrenched in the hobby and you like go to your locals every week, or you're like constantly online checking all of like Facebooks and Reddits and all that kind of stuff. You know what? It's cool to just be like, I'll take a break, and then just take a break.
Yeah.
Despite what naysayers may tell you, Flesh and Blood isn't going anywhere, so it'll be here when you come back. So
No,
yeah,
exactly.
I think Flesh and Blood in particular is a game that can burn people out, not because it's a bad game at all. Obviously, we all here love the game, and it's my
Yeah.
favorite game. I really genuinely love Flesh and Blood, but it is a mentally taxing game, is what I'm getting at. Like it's not an easy game. Like even if you're playing it super casually, it's a game where you more or less are thinking like all of the time, right? You have to think on your opponent's turn on what you want to block with so you can prepare for your turn, and then on your turn you got to think about how you're going to sequence things, and then you can get in even more complicated if like you're doing like a Dromai where you have all these other moving pieces, or like if you're going to set
Yeah.
up like a kill with a Kano or something like that, or if you're playing Brute and you're like, oh, which card do I need to keep in my hand so I can optimally discard the things. Flesh and Blood, I don't know if we mentioned it on the podcast. I feel we did, but Flesh and Blood's not a game where you can like pull out your phone. Like so for example, Magic the Gathering in Commander, I have played in Commander games many times where someone on someone else's turn just pull out their phone. And they're just like, I'm gonna check Twitter or whatever, and they just diddle around on your phone. You can't do that in Flesh and Blood. Like it demands, like the way Flesh and Blood works is it demands a reaction out of the opponent anytime that like the active player does something, especially like in regards to attacks and blocks. Unless I guess you're playing.
That's why it's so sick though, because you're just always engaged, and it's like that's why it's so good. But at the same time, there's so many options and modes on your cards that it is mentally draining. And if you're getting fucking rinsed every single game, sorry, if you're getting absolutely smashed every single game, it's just like what can I do? How do I do this? How do I improve? Do I have to physically change my hero because my hero that I love and adore is just not good right now? That feels bad as well because you can't play the thing that you want to play and all this. So it's, yeah.
I'll tell you what, I'm glad that Uzuri is pretty good. I'm just gonna say that because like,
oh yeah,
poor Arachne is stuck in like the Levia tier. So
yeah, it could be the new fatigue hero though. It is quite good at defending and taking lots of cards away.
The problem is it doesn't have built-in defensive capabilities like Oldhim had.
No,
so Oldhim just has all this built-in crap. Like his hero power is nuts, and his card pool is really big compared to Arachne, which has a very small card pool. And then you don't have stuff like Crown of Seeds. You don't have stuff like your shield. I think you could do fatigue, but it's nowhere close to as good as like Oldhim. You're still gonna get wrecked, like against certain decks. Like, so maybe they print some fatigue stuff in Dusk Till Dawn, but my bet would be it's not great. That would be my bet, especially since with Oldhim gone, I think a lot of aggro players are like salivating. They're like, "Oh, our time has come. Like Oldham's gone. Let's wreck everyone."
Yeah.
So, especially with
There's a
Dusk Till
couple of
Dawn, like I fear for Vincent, I fear Vincent's like potential.
Yeah, it's going to be funny. And I've seen a lot of people running a lot of ice Lexi stuff rather than the typical sort of no fuse stuff. There's a lot of ice Lexi stuff coming out of the woodwork now, like with running Channel Lake Frigids as well and stuff. So
yeah, that's how Lexi was built, like prior to Outsiders. That was like the popular build, right? That was the build that like Yuki won Canadian Nats with. She won like with an ice Lexi build, and you basically use like shock charmers to get additional on hits with your arrows that proc like frostbites and that kind of stuff, and like it's like all right, you know. And it might actually be quite good now with the quiver and giving some more consistency with stuff like the codices. But
yeah,
you know, that's not my speed. I'm just gonna play no fuse. In fact, I'm just gonna play blitz no fuse, which is what I've been doing for a long time. But Ice Lexi's pretty fun. Oddly enough, out of all of the ice heroes, Ice Lexi is like the worst ice hero. Like you had Oldhim, you have Icelander, and then you have Ice Lexi. And I don't think it's like a hot take to say Oldhim and Icelander were better than Ice Lexi. Maybe now with the Outsider stuff, but I don't know.
I still don't think it's particularly close.
Yeah. So anyway, we kind of just went off tangent with that one, but yeah.
standard procedure.
Burnout and stuff. It's an interesting thing, especially when it comes to like content creation. Yeah.
What do you have you struggled with anything, Bill, recently? Because I know that obviously you do like a lot of like gauntlets and edited gameplay series and stuff. I don't know how the Spike Feeders works with regards to that, whether that affects you or the editor or anything like that.
Yeah, it's mostly me in that, like, Jim is our editor for the Flesh and Blood stuff, and he is consistently like, okay, we have it set up so that we can just film a bunch of stuff and then have a backlog, and he's just able to edit it as it comes along, as he's able to.
Nice.
And release them on a once every other week basis. And prior to us changing things around, I was feeling a lot of like I just didn't want to do anything with respect to it, because every single time we had a gauntlet, the way that it was initially set up, I had to create. Not only did I have to find somebody who wanted to play against me, because I was kind of the only person that was even interested or had time to play Flesh and Blood at all. I had to figure out what deck they were going to play, or if they were going to play the gauntlet. So figure out the deck that was going through the gauntlet, and then all 5 of the decks going through the gauntlet as well. I had to figure out what decks those were and build them. And then had to nail down a day where we were both available. And because we were doing 5 games plus a wrap up, assuming everything went well, that's still like 6 hours straight of filming. And, you know, sometimes, most of the time, honestly, we just didn't have that amount of time to sit down. So we'd do like 4 games and then say we were going to come back and do the last game plus the wrap up. And it just became difficult to continue doing that. So every time it was like, okay, we need to film another gauntlet, that's what was going through my mind. And it just felt like I was getting, I don't know, like Jim is the one that does a lot of the coordination and stuff. And we've done things to sort of fix it up so that there are fewer barriers to get that sort of process done. We have a full gauntlet basically pre-made now. So all you have to do for whatever we want to do for the gauntlet, we just build the one deck that needs to be put through the gauntlet, and then that's it. And then we also cut down on the wrap up. The wrap up was, we thought, really valuable, but I don't think other people like the viewers of the gauntlets necessarily found them as useful as we did. And then also we cut it down to 4 games instead of 5. And a lot of those changes just took away, again, like the sort of extra baggage that was associated. So now when it comes to us wanting to film a gauntlet, it's just, okay, who are we playing with? What deck are they going to bring? And then we figure it out after that. So it's a lot easier to just get going and not be sort of mired in all these decisions that need to be made and having to pull cards and put the decks together and everything like that. Like it's for making content. I mean, I don't really make the content. I'm just the person who's in the content. But at least for me, from like a procedural standpoint of the type of content we were making, streamlining things is like the most valuable thing you can do, to make it so, when you're looking to do something, it doesn't represent an entire day or weekend worth of prep work. It's just, I need to message this person, get an answer from them, lock down a day, and then we're good. It becomes a lot easier to do stuff when you're not constantly thinking about all of the additional things that one activity that you want to do, that one piece of content that you want to do. If there aren't 10 additional questions that have to go along with it, it becomes just like millions of years easier.
Yeah. Jeez, I didn't realize you had to build, like before, like the old procedure, you had to build all of the decks, like not only the one that was going through the gauntlet, but all of the actual other decks as well. That is a lot of prep.
Yeah, it was
Jeez.
not fantastic, but we've fixed it.
I can relate to that a little bit, because when I did the Outsiders skirmish season with you guys and Steven, I mean, I obviously had to build 3 decks. You guys each built 1. But I can imagine a situation where I had to build all 6, and it would just be like, ugh.
Yeah.
I have a question for you guys that I just thought about while Bill was talking. How do you feel success plays a role in this? And what I mean by that is, do you think being very successful to whatever metric that you have for success has a factor in how burnt out you get, right? So, for example, if you're a new content creator and you're just starting, you're probably not going to get a whole lot of traction. And do you feel something like that is a factor to, that can lead to quicker burnout?
Yeah, I think so. Especially now, because there's this thing called imposter syndrome. If you're coming into a new game, you see all of these figures. You see Living Legends podcast. You see Red Zone Rogue, DM Armada, Arsenal Pass. It's hard to come into that as a new creator, because all of these people are already established. They already got their networks. Living Legends podcast is us 3. If someone wanted to reach out to us 3 for a collaboration, they might be scared to do that. They might be scared to sort of step into that thing, and it's hard because you are new to this community that is essentially now already established. Like when I got into this 2 years ago, obviously you were doing stuff, Kel. I don't know about you, Bill. Were you doing stuff 2 years ago, like when Monarch was released?
No.
No. Yeah.
Definitely
So back then, the creator sphere was easy to get into and easy to just sort of put whatever you wanted to out into the aether, because there wasn't much stuff. But now there seems like there's a lot of stuff. So as a new person coming in, not only do you not know anybody, everybody's doing it already as well to a certain degree. So that is difficult already straight away to get on, get into it, because you need to be unique. You need to be entertaining, even if you are speaking about something similar to someone else. But yeah, go with your thought while I'm rambling on.
No, dude, I think what you just said is one of the most important things, by the way, for content creators, is to realize that your job is to be entertaining, right?
Yeah.
Some people can be very just raw informative, but I don't think there's a big enough space for that type of content. You need to be if your angle is to be the information channel, you need to be like in terms of like, you know, strategy or gameplay or something like that, and you're not
Yeah.
entertaining, you have to be the best, right? And Flesh and Blood, the world champion literally has a podcast. So if you want to make a podcast about
Exactly,
like
yeah.
competitive play and you're not focusing on being like entertaining or fun or having like a very unique perspective or something like that, you're competing against Michael Hamilton's podcast, and he's literally the world champion. And so like you're not gonna say anything that like the world's best player, arguably, is saying,
Yeah.
right? So like you also have, you know, Arsenal Pass, which is also another very competitive, you know, podcast or something like that. And
I mean,
think,
they don't have world champions in their podcast, but they were there from the start, right? Brendan and Hayden were there from the very start, doing the you know the competitive analysis. And Brendan's in casting now, and he does a great job. But you know, if you're trying to get into the scene and you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to speak about the point for point value on cards. Do you have any calling wins? Do you have any credentials to your name? Because if you don't, you're going up against, like you said, a world championship winning podcast, and that is tough, mate. That is hard.
my whole point of it though is like you should, I don't know, I shouldn't say you should, but in my opinion, the purpose of a YouTube video is to be entertaining. You can also you can also be informative, but overall the purpose is to be entertaining, and that's how I like to approach my videos. So like I want them to be entertaining. I want them to be have a certain degree of energy going into it. I'm not gonna make a video if I'm like not feeling it. I really want to be able to at least project a certain amount of energy and enthusiasm for it. And you know, at least for my kind of stuff, my hope is that people gel with the energy and they you know, care about what I have to say. Basically, is what it comes down to. And yeah, so that's being entertaining is very important. I think that's one thing a lot of new folks don't think about enough is being entertaining. I want to put as an example of a new Flesh and Blood channel that I think is very good, and it's because they're very entertaining, is Three Floating. They just make very, very entertaining gameplay videos and just videos in general. And to be fair, right, they're actors. Like some of them are like actual actors in like Netflix stuff. Like they know what they're doing, but like it shows, right? And that's why, you know, you can feel the entertainment value just like oozing in their videos. So
yeah.
That's I think that's like the perfect example of that kind of stuff. And like you know, we have other channels that are bigger than them right now, like even like gameplay specific channels that are bigger than them. But I would not be surprised if they end up if they stay the course and they keep it up. I would not be surprised if they end up being one of the bigger like Flesh and Blood gameplay channels. Like their quality is just really, really good. Flesh and Blood content right now, by the way, is very interesting. I don't know if this is the topic we want to get into, but like it's something that I think about not a lot, but I did think about it a little bit yesterday because I saw someone on post about how they had overheard someone talking about like competitiveness in content creation.
Yeah, table pit William. I commented on that as well.
I mean, I commented on your comment, but it was a joke. Well, not really. I think it would be an interesting video. Basically, for those who don't know, as commented, I don't remember exactly your full comment, but you did say at one point that you hate tier lists, and then I just Then I just said best Azalea or best arrows for Azalea tier list win. And I was like,
because it was just while we're on the topic, so it was William Table and Legs Knuckles. So actually a UPF champion at Baltimore, so fair play. He got the gold foil silver palm, so fair play.
Nice.
And does good UPF content. So his tweet was, I heard a passing dialogue today about the competition of content creation in FAB. While I love those people, I hate that mindset. The competition aspect is kind of what we were getting onto earlier, and that can also contribute to burnout because as a creator, sometimes you can I'm not saying you should. I disagree with looking at it like this. You might look at someone else's channel and think, oh, they're my rivals. I have to try and beat them with regards to views or subscriber numbers, and it's just not the way to look at it, I don't think.
No, I can tell you this, and I don't want to speak too much for Steven, but I think it's safe to say that like my channel and Steven's channel are the two like biggest flesh and blood forward channels, right?
Yeah.
There's like a couple others out there. There's like the card guys and stuff, but predominantly speaking, if you're talking about like flesh and blood channels, I think Steven and I have the biggest ones. And I can tell you this from, once again, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I know that I don't see it that way at all. And I'm pretty sure he doesn't see it that way at all either. I think he and I are both of the same mind that like, a rising tide raises all ships. And he and I don't really see it like that.
No.
And like even if like, so for example, I think this is the best example I can give is like I've been doing spoiler videos for Flesh and Blood ever since Arcane Rising, and when I started seeing Dead Summer Art's spoiler videos, by the way, super underrated channel, you should all go subscribe to Kale from Dead Summer Art.
Yeah.
He had like the best spoiler videos. The quality was so good. They still are incredible. It's like some of the best out there, and they were so good that they inspired me to do better. And I didn't see it as like competition. I saw it as like, he's doing so good. I owe it to myself and my viewers to try to make it my stuff better, right? Like, and to improve on what I'm doing, and not to be like, not to like push him out or anything, but to like elevate the whole thing. That's the goal. It's not to push people, at least for me, not to push people away. It's to like to elevate the whole thing, right? My goal for a lot of Flesh and Blood, or for a lot of content that I do, is I talk about games that I love, and I love Flesh and Blood the most. And the goal is, or one of the big goals, is to just get people to play this game that I love, and to like share that with everyone. And when people tell me, they're like, oh, I made a YouTube channel because you got me into the game or whatever, I'm like, that's awesome. Like I think that's incredible. So I can tell you from at least my perspective, and I'm pretty sure Steven is on the same boat here, is like, we don't see it as like a competition. I don't even see it as like a competition with Steven, who's like the closest channel to mine. When I see, here, this is another way to put it. When I see him put out a video and it's like a banger, I'm stoked. I'm like, hell yeah, dude. He put out an awesome video, and I'm stoked. I'm not like, oh, I'm angry that he put out a video that's really good. Why the hell would I be angry that he like that's I think it's a losing mindset to think it as a competition.
Mm-hmm.
Because like
it is.
If it's a competition, that means someone loses. And if you want the game to succeed, no one should be losing. Everyone should be losing. Everyone should be winning. So I do think there is room for Flesh and like some people will say there's no room. There's too many content creators, yada yada. Dude, I think there's a lot of room. There's like I would love to see I keep thinking about this. Who the next Flesh and Blood content creator to hit 10,000 subscribers will be. Is it going to be 3 floating? Is it going to be Arsenal Pass? Dice Commando's like up there too. He's got like over 5,000, 6,000, something like that. So like, I want our peers to succeed. Like, I'm rooting for like everyone. So like everyone from like the smallest channel to like, Steven and So that's kind of my thoughts on the competition thing, at least.
It was an interesting comment to read.
I'm morbidly curious to know who he was talking about, though. I try to stay out of like drama and gossip and that kind of stuff, but when I see stuff like that, it's just this human nature to be like, I want to know. Like I want to.
What's going on? Yeah,
I want to know who he's talking about.
But guaranteed that the people, whoever it was that were saying, they're talking about the competition of content creation, the people that don't care about that will go and watch somebody else. You know, if they don't like the delivery of this channel, if they're like really in your face and doing all these cuts and edits and stuff, and you're just like, oh yeah, this is just the style of the video. People that are more into the real feel of the speaking and not cutting and just going through all the nuances of the human language and all that sort of thing and the feeling of it. You don't get any feeling out of those videos. This is just my opinion, you know. But you cutting all these videos and stuff and doing it in stupid ways, you're not getting the feeling of it unless you're doing it in that way. Which is why I like the sort of uncut, raw content. And you will find an audience that likes that and can't stand the other stuff. So if other people are doing that, you know, people are going to gravitate towards the other creators that aren't doing that. So there's room for everybody's different styles and what have you, whether you like it or not. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's room for both.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, like I can't help but think though, like about like just Flesh and Blood content creation in general. It's kind of an interesting thing. I expect to see more casually focused channels pop up.
Yeah.
For me personally, and I actually had someone message me and ask me this, like why I don't make certain content, or he's like, oh, you should make this, like I didn't know it existed. Like he was like, oh, you should make shorts, and I'm like, I know I could make shorts, I could definitely do that. I don't want to, like, and like even if it does better for my channel, if I did. So here's the thing with shorts: if I did, I would want them to be quality, right? I wouldn't want them to be just a throwaway thing. I would want it to be like a really good quality. I'd want it to have like a joke or some sort of punchline or some like interesting thing. And that requires time, right? And I'm not really sold on shorts in general. And the other thing is like, I don't watch shorts. Like, that's not the kind of stuff that I like. And I like to make content that I would like to watch, right?
Yeah.
And part of that is like I don't watch a lot of, I do watch a decent amount, but like most of the YouTube that I watch is like not TCG related. Like
Same.
I really like Aagaard in Japan. I really like just like this wide swath of things, like these travelogue type stuff, and like other TCG content creators I like the Professor, for example, or even like Ristic Studies. Or Ristic Studies is so good. Like,
what about Goarin Gaming and the Spike Feeders, you absolute heathen?
I want to mention I'm mentioning non Flesh and Blood channels.
Yeah,
But those are the kind of stuff that I watch, and I like to learn from them and like think about what they're doing. And there's some stuff that I'm just like, I'm not going to be able to do that, or it's going to be way too much. So like, for example, would be like Ristic Studies. He puts out like one video every couple months or something like that, and they're like these super deep dive, very well edited, very well narrated, written like documentaries, right? Like these pseudo documentaries. And I'm like, I could maybe do that, but it's so scary to put out like one video every 3 months and be like, I hope the video does well. I hope people watch it, right?
Oh, here we go. That's another thing as well. And obviously this is rambling on now. Probably it's the 2 Asahis I've had today, but I've rambled on quite a lot today. But it's interesting stuff going on here. But that's another thing as well that can burn you out, is looking at the YouTube metrics. You know, all the downward arrows. You're saying you're doing shit. You're rubbish.
The biggest problem with that too is like when you're pogging off, dude, like when it's awesome. And I've had some times when it was like really like awesome. I was like 100,000 views 28 days. I was like,
your revenue's like up through the roof and all sorts.
Yeah, revenue was like really good. The subscriber number was like plus 1,000. It was like pogging off, and I'm like, this is great right now. And then I had the foresight to think this. I'm like, this is great right now. But I know in like 2 months, it's just going to be all down arrows because I couldn't maintain that level of growth. It was like, I think it was like late last year or something, like kind of like when Flesh and Blood was like going through another little explosion. And I was like, and lo and behold, like in like January, February, it's just like all down arrows. It's like, because it was so good before. It's like,
it was
bad now.
That's the thing, and it's going to happen again, right? Because obviously we're all, well,
It's
Well,
like
I don't know. Well, we probably are. We're all going to get spoiler cards, right? We're all going to have videos on our channels that are going to get traction or whatever. There's going to be a load of new subs and a load of new views and watch time, and then suddenly it's all going to go down the pan again when it just tails off. Because that's what happened on, you know, when you see the big spoiler videos. I mean, I streamed my last one. There was like 400 people in there, and it was just like, holy hell, there's lots of people. And I was live, and I was speaking to people. It was great. And then suddenly after that, it's just like, right, you're all downward arrows now, nobody cares anymore, mate.
Yep, yeah,
nobody cares.
You have your 1 out of 10 video. You have your 1 out of 10, and it's gonna be 1 out of 10 until it is no longer the 10th. You know, if it's the 11th video now, it rotates out.
Yeah.
That's just
another thing.
That's just part of YouTube.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just one of those things. You cannot put your personal worth into how many views and stuff that you get. Otherwise, you will just crumble. So it's probably best not to even bother looking at those things when you're first starting off or whatever, or don't attribute your worth to numbers, because it is just a video, you know. So that's all it is. So don't think too hard about it. Just do what you love and see what happens. Just don't get too tied up on it. But yeah, just wanted to bring that up as well, because metrics is one of those things that can get you down if you start attributing your worth to how many likes you get on your video or what your watch time is. And
see,
it's slippery slope.
I don't pay attention to that all that much. I would be lying though if I didn't pay attention to like the number of views or like the subscribers or whatever. Like,
oh yeah, when it's your actual job, I guess you do to a certain degree. That's another thing. Thing as well is
it is, but it's like, it's one of these things where I'm so stubborn that I'm just gonna put out the videos that I want to make anyway. So it's like I know it goes back to I know that I could make videos that get more views. But they're not what I want to do. Like I could put out tier list videos every like couple weeks, and I'm sure they do very well. The only tier list video for Flesh and Blood I've ever made, by the way, is an April Fool's joke. You should go watch it, by the way. Best heroes in Flesh and Blood.
Yeah,
you should watch it. But also, it's by the way, I stand by that video, and I think it is 100% accurate. Top tier, best 100%. Heroes. Yeah, best heroes in the game.
Best tier list.
Yeah, best tier list. But like, I'm stubborn, so it's like, you know what? I can make this Grand Archive video, and I know it's not going to do as well as like a Flesh and Blood meta deck video, but I don't give a shit, man. I'm just gonna make this. I'm just gonna make this. Exactly. I'm just gonna make this Grand Archive video, and then like some troll like accuses me of like being a shill, and I'm like, if I was shilling for this, I wouldn't be making a video about an indie game that like not a whole lot of people have heard about. I'd be making a video about like how Wizards of the Coast screwed up again or whatever, and just get all the free views from that. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Anyway. These are the kind of conversations that we have after the podcast is ended.
It is. It's just carry on going. Yeah.
Oh yeah, this is exactly what it's like.
To drink more Asahis next time as well. I think it just gets it flowing.
I think it'd be really funny to have an episode when we like, you know, start the episode with like a few shots under the belt and then like kind of drink as we go.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have to do that.
Maybe chuck it on Go Again Gaming Living Legends After Hours, where we can just do whatever the hell we want.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, there'll be a few of those. There'll be a few of those videos going up at Worlds, I expect, when we're all just pretty loose. As long as I get permission from these guys first to put it up. But we'll see what happens. But yeah, there's going to be some good stuff at Worlds coming up.
I'd be okay. Like you'll see. Maybe you have already seen, but I'm a pretty I'm a silly drunk. I'm not like a angry drunk or like a sad drunk. I get silly. So
that's great.
Yeah, they say it's like alcohol releases a lot of your inhibitions, and for me, I'm just like try to be reserved, but you know, maybe I'm just kind of a weird person.
A weird drunk, yeah.
Little fellow.
Yeah.
Pure chaotic energy, yeah.
Hey, I'm the kind of person who like sings to their dog. I sing to my dog when I like get her food, or like when I make her dinner. Yeah.
Love it.
But anyway, that was this episode of the Living Legends podcast. We talk about, you know what, we truly did talk about a lot of stuff today. Please let us know, by the way, in the comments down below, like if you have dealt with any like Burnout with Flesh and Blood or any other game. I know a lot of folks out there listening have played other card games, though I do know a lot of folks out there who are listening to this have not played other card games other than Flesh and Blood. And I think both perspectives are very interesting. So if you have played other card games before, have you experienced Burnout with those other card games, or have you experienced Burnout with Flesh and Blood? And then also for the folks who have never played any other card game, I'm curious if you've felt Burnout with Flesh and Blood at all yet. Those are very distinct perspectives, and I'm curious to read the responses to that. So
Yeah.
Not just the YouTube call to action. I'm genuinely curious to know. We could proceed to Arsenal step, even though we've just been like absolutely rambling. Do you guys have anything you want to talk about other than what we've talked about? I already talked about the Grand Archive stuff that I have going on, and I'm gonna no life Diablo 4 on Thursday when it comes out. I could tie this into content creation. I know I'm gonna no life Diablo 4, so I've already prepped a whole bunch of content in anticipation for this. So we have the podcast coming out, and then I have a video on Friday that I know what I'm gonna do, and then I'm not sure about Monday yet. I'll do that when the time comes. But
well, what does that mean? Does that mean you bank content for when you're not going to be doing any work? Essentially, is that what that means?
Sometimes I do. So like I like to do at least 3 videos a week. Monday, Wednesday, Friday is my normal upload schedule. Wednesday is now the Living Legends day. So it's I usually have the Living Legends Wednesday, and then I have the Monday video and the Friday video. And that's because those are the 2 optimal days for my viewers. Those are the days that people watch the videos the most, according to my analytics. And so so to answer your question, sometimes I do, but what's more important for me is that I know what I'm doing, and I know it's not going to take too long to make. The big thing that's going to take long for me to make is I'm doing a spoiler video for Grand Archive, and I'm animating images, and I've animated 2 images already. I need to do 1 more, and it's going to be a nice video. But I do sometimes bank actually film videos and have them scheduled. It's a really nice feeling when you have like 3 videos like scheduled, and you can just look at it in your creator hub, and I'm like, nice. I don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
I don't have to do anything for like.
Flip the switch. You're good.
Yeah.
I just schedule them. I just have them scheduled, and I'm just like, I'm good. I could just do nothing for like 5 days. I'm just good. But of course, that never happens. That never happens.
That's the difference.
Like, oh yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say that's the difference between me and you, is that I'm just like, I have nothing queued at all. It just comes out like random times, so I have no real schedule, and that needs to change as well. But it's just one of those things that I just don't have, is a schedule.
Getting a schedule,
apart from Azalea Ringer, of course, but
yeah, getting a schedule I think is really good. Not just in content creation, but just like in general, I found that I don't know, I'm not the kind of person who meticulously plans everything out. A lot of the videos I do, I literally make the day before.
But it always comes out on the same day still.
Well, yeah,
though.
but I always make sure that I do it. With more or
Some
less.
people expect it, don't they? I guess.
Yeah, I mean, like there's some like YouTube algorithmically things that are like, encourage you to do that, and then also like establishing like watch patterns, for your audience and all that kind of crap. Well, the way I see it, like, I think it's good, and it's not bad. I'll put it that way. I don't think it's ever bad if you can get onto the schedule and make it work, because that way you can plan your like social life or your real life outside of content.
Social life? What's that? What's that then?
Well, so like, for example, Sundays and Mondays for me usually are days that I spend with my partner, like, because those are the days she has off, and I make time specifically for her for those days. And it's like, these are the days that I spend with you. And I think it's maintaining a healthy balance between this kind of stuff. This also could ties into the burnout conversation.
It really does. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It all goes around in a circle.
Yeah, just maintaining a healthy balance between like when you're doing the content, when you're working, and then when you're like, doing other stuff. So for me, like, I schedule it out. Yeah.
Yeah, like playing Slice and Dice on the toilet.
Hell yeah, man!
Good one.
It was a great game. But like, I will say, like, things are thrown at a little bit of a wrench sometime because like when LSS drops some news, then I just rush to make a video as soon as possible. So there,
Yeah.
I have my scheduled videos, but then when they're like, oh hey look, here's some like exciting news, and I'm just like, all right, I'm doing it. Like,
Yeah.
but that's because I'm genuinely excited for it. I'm just like, oh, this is awesome. I want to talk about it, and I have no one here to talk about it with because Rama doesn't want to hear this. She doesn't want to hear it, so I'm just like, I gotta talk about it and make a video.
Oh.
So yeah, anyway, there's.
Anyway.
That's that.
Yeah.
That's that.
That's that. Oh god.
Bill,
Yeah.
how you doing, Bill? As and I just talked a lot. How you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm also excited for Diablo 4.
Yes.
The only other thing that I have going, I already mentioned, Yu-Gi-Oh! Specifically Edison format is really cool. It's the style of Yu-Gi-Oh! Where you can just normal summon a single monster and pass the turn and have it be fine.
Question: as someone who played
Wow.
semi-competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! When I was a kid, this will tell you the era of the Yu-Gi-Oh! How many graceful charities are you allowed to put in your deck?
0.
Oh, that's after my time. I was allowed to play with 2. This was graceful charity was limited, and you can have 1 pot of greed, 1 black hole, 1 Regeki. These are the cards that were like on the restricted and limited list when I played Yu-Gi-Oh! I played Yu-Gi-Oh! In like the first 2 years. I played in the Yatagarusu Yadalock era.
Too strong.
I literally have my old Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck. It has all the cards in it. I have like Legend of Blue Eyes, Ultra Rare Monster Reborns, and all this shit when I was a kid. Like I said, I've never sold my stuff, so I just have it. Unfortunately for Yu-Gi-Oh! It has to be first edition to be worth much. And I don't have a ton of a lot of it was like the not first edition, but I do have a first edition Ultra Donzalug. He's one of the cards that they Donzalug's awesome. He's one of the cards also that they censored in the Japanese art.
Yeah.
He's got guns, and in the US art, he's got swords, which are still cool. It still looks cool, but like he had like guns. He started blasting.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that's what I've been up to,
Nice.
and it's been
Nice.
pretty good.
Nice.
Fantastic.
Love to see it. Well, where can everyone find you guys? We'll just go back to Bill. Bill, where can everyone find you if they'd like to see more Bill?
Well, if you'd like to see more me, I am Bill from the Spike Feeders. You can find me on Twitter at BillTSF. You can also find me on YouTube at the Spike Feeders FAB. We do live edited gameplay content. If that's something that interests you, you should definitely check us out.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
And then where can the lovely folks find your equally or possibly even more lovely mullet and mustache combo?
Yeah, so speaking about being unique and interesting, that is the only mullet and mustache combo in FAB, I believe. Yeah, you can find me on YouTube, Goarin Gaming on YouTube, and then Goarin Gaming AZ on Twitter. What are you laughing at?
I just thought of some really sweet taglines for you, man. You could
Oh yeah,
you could rebrand to like the mullet of Flesh and Blood or Flesh and Blood's mullet.
flesh and mullet. Flesh and mullet. Wow.
Oh my god.
There we go. That's it. You heard it here first. Going Gaming is now flesh and mullet.
That's no bueno.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Flesh and mullet.
Oh my god, dude. That's a way to get your channel like suspended. I don't know.
Yeah. Flesh and mullet. Oh,
this sounds like a 70s porn or something.
It really does. Yeah.
Oh
Mustache mullet combo.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Flesh, mullet,
yes,
and mustache. Oh god.
Flesh, mullet, and mustache. Soft core. Now let's get out of here. Right, Kel, what was your one?
Hey everyone, if you're still here.
If you're still here, you're in for a treat.
I'm Kel. You can find me at Red Zone Rug everywhere. And thank you for watching. That was a hell of a way to kick off our second year, I guess, of the Living Legends podcast.
Yeah.
Tune in next week for an equally dialed-in episode where we talk about more Flesh and Blood. Yeah. Thanks for watching, everyone.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot more cards next time. And I know we spoke about Burnout, but I'm never burned out doing these episodes, and I hope the audience isn't either, because this is a great time, as always. So thanks for watching, folks.
Hell yeah.
Or listening.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Cheers.